So if-else statement in Python. So if-else statement is used for decision making. So this is the syntax of if statement in Python. If a test expression, that means this is a condition, we check this condition. If this condition is true, then we'll execute the statements in if, right? So this is the statements will be here. This first statement, second statement, third statement, so on and so forth. Whatever statements are there in if will be evaluated if this condition is true. So here you see this colon is must. After this text expression or after condition, this colon is must, and these statements will be part of this if. Those statements follow the indentation will be part of this if, right? So usually in other programming languages like C, C++, if is written like this: if, then we write condition in the bracket, and then we write the statements to be executed in these two brackets, right? So if this condition is true, this block will be executed, else this block will be executed, right? If the condition is true, this block will be executed, else, that means if the condition is false, this block will be executed. In Python, we have if here, if, then the condition, then this colon is must, and then we write the statements here. We don't use bracket here. So these statements will be executed if this condition is true. So for example, here if you see the flow chart, this is the flow chart. If we have this test expression, if this is true, we execute the body of if, right? If this is false, we don't execute this body of if. We don't directly go to the next set of statements which are outside if. For example, here let's say we have a variable number whose value is 10. Now if none means you see 0, then none and false, they are treated as false. That means if this is false condition, if this is false condition, this condition is false, right? So no matter what you write inside the body of this if, that will not be executed because already this condition is false. Now if I make it like this, if number, if num equal to 10, now you see number, value of number is 10. We are comparing 10 with 10, both are same. That time this condition is true, so this will be evaluated to 2. Let's execute this and check it out. So here you see this condition is true, that's why this statement is executed. This statement is executed. You see there are two statements here. This is the first statement which is inside this if, which is the body of this if, but this statement is outside of this if, right? This is not inside, this statement is not inside if, only this statement is inside this if, right? So this condition is true, that's why we'll execute this. This is executed. Now if this condition is false, like if number is greater than 10, so if I use this greater than symbol here, now this time number is 10, and we are checking whether 10 is greater than 10. No, 10 is not greater than 10. That's why this condition is false. Now this condition is false, so that's why this will not be executed. We'll directly go outside of the if and we'll execute this statement which is outside of the if, right? So this will print always. This will always print. Why? Because this is outside of this if. Outside of this if, no matter what condition you check here, this statement is always going to be executed. Okay, so now this was if block. If we have if else now, if else also, right? So what is if else, right? So we saw earlier, right? If this condition was true, then only we are executing this, and we are not checking, right? We are not having else here, right? So now here what we have is else. If this condition is true, execute this else. Else means if this condition is false, what has to be done? If this condition is to be is false, what is to be done? That we write in else, right? If this condition is false, what we'll do? That we'll write in else. So here is the syntax of if else. If condition or text expression, the body, if this expression is false, if this condition is false, go in else. We'll execute else always, right? So this set of statements will be executed only when we will go in else. And when we'll go in else? When this condition is false, right? Okay, so let's check it out. Let's see the example here. So we have a flowchart of if else here. You see, we have the test expression. If this is true, we'll execute the body of if. If this is false, we'll execute the body of else, right? Okay, so here we have the same example here. Now, you see, we have if number is equal to, we are assigning 10 to this number variable, and then we are checking, is this number greater than 0? Yes, this 10 is greater than 0 because number is 10, so 10 is greater than 0. So this condition is true, this condition is true. That's why this statement will be executed. Else part will not be executed when this condition is true. Else part will be executed only when this condition is false. So we'll get the output positive number. So that is if else. Okay, now there is something called as if uh, else, right? So what is that? We have if, then the condition, right? If this condition is true, we'll execute this body of if, right? Now, if this condition is false, we'll have we'll have one more condition. We have one more condition now. We'll check if this condition is false, is the other condition true? Elif, right? Elif means we are having another condition here. We are having another condition here. If this is false, we'll check another condition, right? Is it true? If this is true, we'll execute this body, right? Else, right? Else means if both are false, this is also false, first is false, we check the other condition, this is also false, then we went into else, right? That means if both are false, we'll go in else and execute the body of else. So let's see this syntax here. So this is the syntax for if, right? So here we have if test expression or condition. If this is true, execute the body of if. If this is false, check the other condition, elif, right? So if this is false, we will check the second condition here. If this is also false, if this is true, that means the second condition is true, we'll execute the body of this elif, right? So if this is false, then we'll go in else, right? Okay, that means if this is true, we'll execute this. If this is true, we'll execute this. When we'll check this? Only when this is false. When we'll check this? Only when this is false, right? Okay, and when we'll go in else? When this is false, this is also false, then we'll go in else, right? So we can use any number of elif, right? It's not that we'll have only one elif. I can have any number of elif. If, then elif, right? Then again the body, then I can have elif, right? Any number of elifs we can have, and then we can have else in the end, right? Okay, so that is the if, elif, else statement, right? Okay, so let's see the flowchart of this, right? So this is a flowchart. This is the expression. If this is true, we'll execute the body of if, right? If this is false, we'll check the another condition which is there in elif, right? If this is true, we'll execute the body of elif. If this is false, we'll go to the body. We'll go in else, right? That means when first condition is false, second is also false, then only we'll go in else. So let's see an example here. So here is an example. If the number, we are having number as 0, we are checking the first condition. Now first condition is false because number is not greater than 0, so we will not execute this. Now we'll go in elif. Is number equal to 0? Yes, second condition is true. We'll execute the body of elif, which will print 0, right? We'll not go in else, so we'll get the output as 0. Okay, so now let's see the something called as nested if. So what is nested if? If inside if. If we have one if inside another if, that is called as nested if, right? So let's see this. So here, if you see, num is equal to 10.0, then we'll check this condition, is number greater than equal to 0. If this is true, then we are going inside this if's body we have one more if, right? So if this is true, then only we'll execute the body, right? Else we'll execute this else part, right? So as this number is greater than equal to 0, we'll execute this if, right? So what is that? What is the body of this if? We have one more if here, right? We'll check another condition here. Is number equal to 0? No, number is not 0. We'll not go here, but we'll go here. It's a positive number, right? So we'll execute this statement. We check the first condition, that is true. That's why we'll enter in the body of this if. In the body of this if, we have one more if. Inside this if is inside this if, right? That's why this is called as nested if, right? So here the condition is, if number equal to 0, yes, no, number is not equal to 0 because number is 10.5. This condition is false. We'll go inside this else, this if's else, right? So we'll execute this, right? And then we'll come out of this if, right? When I execute this if, I will I'll always go out of this if, which is the statement here, right? That means you will execute either this if body or else body, not both, right? So you will execute either if body or else body, not both. If you are executing if body, will not execute else. Will directly, after finishing if body, will directly go out of this if that is here. Okay. So that was nested if. So let's see one example program here. Program to find the largest number among the three numbers. So here we have this number 1 is 10, number 2 50, number 3 uh, number 3 is 15, right? So what we are doing is we are making the comparison between number 1 and number 2, right? See, if number 1 is greater than number 2 and number 1 is greater than number 3, right? So we are checking this number 1 with number 2 and number 3, right? So we are checking, is number 1 greater than number 2 and number 1 greater than number 3? If number 1 is greater than both these numbers, we are checking these conditions here, right? So we can have two conditions, right? We can have two conditions. This is first condition, this is second condition. Both has to be true. This and is the logical and here, right? That means if in order for this if to be true, if this if when this will be true, when this is true and this is true, this entire statement will be true. This complete statement will be true because this is logical and here, right? Logical and evaluates to true when this is true and this is true. This will be true when number 1 is greater than number 2, and this will be true when number 1 is greater than number 3, right? So if both are true, that means number 1 is greater than both number 2 and number 3. So we'll execute this. We'll say that largest is number 1, right? The largest is another variable which we are assigning the number 1. Okay, so that now in this case this is false because number 1 is not greater than number 2, right? So we'll go to elif. In elif we are checking another condition. In this condition we are checking number 2 with other two numbers. So number 2 is compared with number 1 and number 2 is compared with number 3. If this condition is true, we'll say that largest is number 2. Else obviously largest will be number 3 here, and in this case this happens to be true. This condition happens to be true because number 2 is greater than number 1, right? 50 is greater than 10, also 50 is greater than 15. So this will evaluate to true and we'll get largest. The value of largest will be 50 here, right? So we'll print that largest by using this formatting here. The largest element among three numbers is this bracket will be replaced by this value, right? So value of largest is this 50, right? So let's execute this and see what happens here. So the largest number is 50.